I was about 8 years old. I told my mother I wanted to be president. I decided not to become president of the United States, but I am a college president. Tri-C is the most selective institution of any institution in Northeast Ohio.
What you mean by that?
It's because our students select us. We believe if you choose us, we're going to help you do everything that you need to do to be successful.
What are some of the challenges that you face?
The way in which many people don't believe in higher education, or they don't believe that higher education is for everybody. If you came here for any program that we have to offer, you're college materials.
I feel like a lot of people know you as the president of Tri-C. We see you doing your speeches, your presentations all over the city, but I wanted to kind of get to know you a little deeper than that. What would you want your legacy to be?
This is the Keepin It Cleveland podcast.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Keepin It Cleveland podcast. I'm Isaac, founder and chief storyteller of Color Beyond, and the host of this podcast. We have a very special guest with me today. We have president of Tri-C, Dr. Michael Baston.
Hey, Isaac, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being on here. I'm honored to have you on the show, to be sitting down having this conversation with you. How you feeling today?
I'm spectacular. It's my honor to keep it Cleveland.
All right, now. So something I wanted to just talk to you about today was I feel like a lot of people know you as the president of Tri-C. You know, we see you doing your speeches, your presentations all over the city. But I wanted to kind of get to know you a little deeper than that. You know, when I think of what people may say about you, is he's energetic, he's full of joy, he's encouraging, he's inspiring, and things like that. And I wanted to know, behind that position, behind that status, you know, who is Dr. Michael Baston? What was your upbringing like? How did you grow up?
Well, I'm originally from New York. I grew up in a community called Jamaica, Queens.
Okay.
And you might know some people that came from Jamaica, Queens, like Run DMC, LL Cool J.
Yeah.
So many different artists, Russell Simmons, and just so many different artists, 50 Cent. All of them came from Jamaica, Queens. But what also came from Jamaica, Queens was this idea of community. I live in a community called Rochdale Village. It's a community of folks that live together in a cooperative environment, meaning that we all were each other's family members.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my mother and father were not just my mother and father, they were everybody's mother and father, and those who were my friends, their parents were our parents as well. So I grew up in a very tight-knit community filled with love and expectation.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that I walk in that every day of my life, that communal sense, that desire to see the community improve and to go beyond, but also to be committed to your role in making things better. And I think that that is what I bring to the table here in Cleveland, where I found a community that is a loving, caring community. And so for me, I feel like I fit in that environment.
Mm-hmm. How would you explain your childhood?
Raised by my mother and father who worked very hard. They were babies that had a baby. So my parents were 18 and 19 when they had me.
Mm-hmm.
They were the Romeo and Juliet of the ghetto, if you will. My mother lived in Ravenswood houses, and my father lived in Queensbridge houses. So those two housing projects, they weren't, you know, buddies, you know, the Capulets and the Montagues. But they found each other in Long Island City High School. My parents started dating when they were 14 and 15 years old. You know, being raised in that household of love and being raised with a lot of love around me allows that to come out of me in my later years. And it's exciting because when I think about my grandparents and how they struggled and what their challenges were, that they ultimately believed that the subsequent generations could do better. You know, my grandparents on my father's side didn't have much education. They came up from the South and didn't have much education. But they made it possible for their children to get the kind of, at least public school education, and the first level, they didn't go to college, but to be able to get the basics to make a life that they didn't have themselves.
Yeah.
And so I honor them with everything I do and what I try to do for others in my work. I honor my grandparents. I honor their sacrifice. I honor my parents. I honor the commitment of my community that committed to me, that they would nurture, love, and support me.
Yeah.
And the expectation of the return on that investment was I would do that for someone else.
I was going to ask you, like, how did your parents, your community, now your grandparents impact you as a child growing up?
I mean, when I think about some of the best moments of my life, they were, spending time with my family. We've just celebrated Thanksgiving. And having my family around that Thanksgiving table reminds us of all those folks who have now moved on up a little higher, if you will, to that great Thanksgiving in the sky. But the values of family, the values of community, the values of service, none of that is left. And it continues to propel me in the work that I do and the life that I live. So it's not just about how you make a living, but it's how you make your life.
What was it that brought you? Well, before I go there, you were first, before you was a president, correct me if I'm wrong, in law school and teaching paralegal studies. Was that the first path? What happened there? I thought that was interesting.
There's multiple paths to get to wherever you want to go. When I was about 8 years old, I told my mother I wanted to be president. And she said, well, you're going to have to go to high school. I was 8 now. You're going to have to go to law school because most presidents are lawyers. And then you're going to have to, go and learn how to be a president, but there's nothing stopping you from being a president.
Yeah.
Because my mother said those words to me when I was 8, it was that
stuck with
fuel. If she had said to me, well, you can't be no president. Well, no president's ever looked like you before. No president will probably ever look like you. That might have had me to become something else.
Yeah.
But because my mother spoke words of affirmation and life into me, if that's what you want to be, you can be that. This is what you got to do to get there, but you can do it. I decided not to become president of the United States, but I am a college president. So I think my presidency is a much more fun presidency, quite frankly. But it is this idea that when you get that inspiration, I went to law school to be, first started off as trying to be a labor attorney. I wanted to represent labor unions because my father worked in a labor union. He was a shop steward, so I wanted to fight for the working man. That was my original. So I went to law school. I got a law degree, but while I was in law school, I did a lot of work in the area of civil rights, and that piqued my interest. So I interned with the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, the Center for Constitutional Rights, Brooklyn Legal Services. So I got a chance to really fight for civil rights, and that was that public interest grabbed me. And one of the things that I had the opportunity to do was work at a law firm that represented educational corporations. And it was with those clients that I started to actually teach at the schools that ultimately we represented. And that's what drew me in. That was what actually hooked me, teaching. And I thought that became a different calling. So I went back to school and got a doctorate in education.
And then you were president of a college before.
Yes.
And now you're the president of Tri-C in Cleveland. How did we get from New York to Cleveland?
Well, it's an interesting tale. I mean, I was quite happy in New York, president of Rockland Community College for 5 years. I enjoyed it. It was a wonderful experience. And then, one of my friends who is the president of Lorraine Community College, right next door to Tri-C, said, you've got to come to Northeast Ohio. The president is retiring. We need you in Northeast Ohio. Your background, your experience would be exactly what we need here in Ohio. And I said, well, sounds great, but there's someone else you have to convince, my wife.
I knew you was going to say that. Of course.
And so what Marcia Ballinger, president of Lorraine, said was, you bring Tasha here. Me and Jim will close the deal. And what we decided to do was a 3-day excursion, a secret shopper of Cleveland. we came in. No one even knew anything about us. And we went to every campus, and we went to the stores and the restaurants around the campus.
Now, when you say every campus, what are you referring to?
We have 4 campuses here at Tri-C.
Okay.
And so they're all over the county. We went to all 4. We went in dressed down, jeans and sneakers, sweatsuits one day, the whole night. Incognito. And we just asked the people there. We asked students, we asked faculty, we asked staff. Tell us about Tri-C. Tell us about the people. Tell us about the community. And so we could really get a sense of, was this a place where we could see ourselves? Is this a community that we believed that we could make a positive impact in, and where we could feel like we're home? And it was through those 3 days that we started the journey of really considering this college and this community. So for us, it wasn't just about the college, because at that point I was being recruited by many of the colleges around the country. It wasn't about this specific college. It started about feeling a sense that we could make a difference in a community for a people. And then this college, given its background, its history, its sort of bones, if you will, we knew that I could come and help leverage what we have to improve the quality of life of the people of our community. And that is what sold us here.
Beautiful. What was the impact moment, or not the impact moment, but more so, what was the aha moment to say, all right, talking to your wife, let's do it?
We were leaving Cleveland, and on our way back home, we stopped off at Perkins Restaurant.
Okay.
Go in, get a little breakfast.
That's my wife's favorite restaurant.
I love that place. We go in for a little breakfast before we get on the plane. We're looking at each other like, yeah, it was really good. I still don't know. What do you think? And so on and so forth. And so a young lady named Daniela was the waitress. And she came up to us in the middle of our meal and said, "Can I pray for you?" My wife looked at each other. We're like, because in New York, you can't just go around praying for people in a restaurant. We don't want to get fired or whatever. But we said yes, and she prayed for us. We got on the plane, and we just knew that was an answer to a prayer. When we got back to New York and we're riding back from the airport, looking at each other like, this girl just prayed for us. Every car in front of us had Ohio license plates.
Wow.
It just seemed like we watch TV. Every
caught.
story is about Ohio. We're watching Living Single, and I'm Overton Wakefield Jones from Ohio, from Cleveland specifically. Like it just was such an overwhelming sense that this was the right decision.
Nice. Let's talk about impact. I know me and you are real big on impact. And a part of your decision was, how can you impact not only the college, but this community? What does impact mean to you?
Well, for me, it is really helping people get on a path, stay on a path, move up through that path, and thrive. And from my point of view, coming into this community, you may read that we are the second poorest big city in America. You may read that we have challenges around literacy. You may read that we have challenges around the real wealth gap between the rich and poor. You may read all of those kinds of things. You may hear the old sort of baggage of mistake on the lake language and all of that. You might hear all of that. But what I hear is that we have the opportunity to take who we are to become what we can be, and not all that other baggage. I found that I probably am one of the biggest cheerleaders of Cleveland, in some cases more than Clevelanders, because I see the resources. The first resource of our people. We have intelligent, articulate, powerfully wonderful people who are entrepreneurial in nature and ready to rise. And we have lots of infrastructure that, if aligned better, could actually improve people's lives. So here, while we may be, from a statistical standpoint, the second poorest big city in America, there's no poverty in our ability. There's no poverty in our ambition. There's no poverty in our reach, in the creativity, in the power of the people. And so I'm here to tap into some of that and to actually be a vocal spokesperson for that, and then to use education as a passport to the opportunities in the opportunity ecosystem that too many people are locked out of today.
As a president, you have a lot of responsibility. I'm thinking of the Spider-Man saying, with great power come great responsibility. How do you change the minds of the community, impact the community? When I think of Tri-C and I think of how it can be perceived on the outside, like just the community college, what is something that you believe separates Tri-C from other colleges, although it is just a community college?
Well, it's more than just a community college. It is the community's college. That's the first thing. And what I say to most people is this. Tri-C is the most selective institution of any institution in Northeast Ohio.
What you mean by that?
We are more selective than Case. We're more selective than John Carroll. We're more selective than Cleveland State. We're more selective than Harvard and Yale. And the reason we're more selective is because our students select us. We don't pick winners and losers. We think everybody's a winner. And many of those other institutions are selective. They make bets about whether they think a person can be successful. We believe if you choose us, we're going to help you do everything that you need to do to be successful. And that's what makes us different. We are honored by the fact that 42,000 people in Northeast Ohio select us every year. We're honored that over 1.2 million people have graduated or taken courses at our institution over these 60 years. We're honored that the people actually vote with tax levy dollars to support the funding of our institution. We're honored that we're in our 5th semester of enrollment growth. So while other institutions are contracting, we are actually hiring. We are expanding. Our programs are growing. We got our first bachelor's degree, and we're going to expand in the baccalaureate market with applied bachelor's degrees, not just generic theoretical bachelor's degrees, but bachelor's degrees that people get because they have actual practical experience, and that ultimately those baccalaureate degrees will help them thrive in the marketplace. But we're not abandoning our associate programs. We're also developing more shorter-term credentials because we know that if you need right now ready skills so that you can earn what you need, that we're here for you. And the power of Tri-C is this, that we meet people where they are, and we teach the students we have. And we want to make sure that they get everything that they need to succeed. That's the difference.
I was thinking of something that was very interesting that you said earlier with your mom and your dad. And you said something specific about the working class. And I think about how now you're in a position where you're also helping the working class as the president of Tri-C. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that?
We are a college that works for working people. 75% of my students are part-time, 100% of them are working. And so what my students are not underemployed. My students are overemployed and under-resourced. So many of my students are working multiple jobs to make ends meet. I want to use the educational platform to put them in a position where they can work one job. And maybe they'll work the side job that will become their main job because they have an entrepreneurial effort or emphasis in their heart, which is why we built the Center for Entrepreneurs that we're in right now. You know, I wanted to build a very specific approach for entrepreneurs, whether they are just starting out or whether they're down the road in their entrepreneurial desire. I wanted to build small businesses here, and that's what we're doing.
That's good. That's good. Legacy, lasting impact. You're the 5th president of Tri-C. What would you want your legacy to be?
Well, I stand on extraordinary shoulders from Charles Chapman, who started in that first 10 years of really building the whole infrastructure of what we have, to Nolan Ellison, who stayed for 17 years and built out 3 of the campuses. Jerry Sue Thornton added additional campuses. Alex Johnson focused us on a completion agenda. So what I really want to be known for, I think, is the thriving nature of the educational experience. It's not enough to get you in. It's not enough to get you finished. We want you to continually come back, upskill, retool, and thrive. I'm not interested in family-sustaining wages. Who wants to be sustained? I'm interested in making sure that the education that our students receive puts them in a position to thrive in every aspect of their lives. I mean, think about you. You're a graduate of our 10,000 Small Business Program, a program that has graduated over 920 people over the course of 10 years and have created so much in terms of economic opportunity for small businesses that have literally changed lives.
Oh, yeah.
That's what this is about.
Oh, yeah. Piggybacking on you being the 5th president of Tri-C, I'm trying to think of, and all the change that you want to see happen and just the future of this college. What are some of the challenges that you face?
One of the most important challenges we face right now is the way in which many people don't believe in higher education, or they don't believe that higher education is for everybody. And so I hear all the time, well, there are some people that are not college material. I fundamentally disagree with that comment. If you come to my college and you go to our skilled trade program and you get your certificate in the skilled trades from Cuyahoga Community College, you came to college.
Mm-hmm.
If you came here to get your English as a second language and you became skilled proficient in English, you're college material. If you came here for any program that we have to offer, you're college material. So the idea that college is not for everybody. People have we have students that are on the spectrum. We have students with visual impairments, intellectual impairments. It does not matter. The whole point of having a community college is that it educates the community. And so this idea that only some people could get educated, or only it's college for some people, that's not true.
Mm-hmm. What would you say when we talk about community, we talk about Cleveland, being a transplant to Cleveland, what are some of your biggest hopes for the community, for Cleveland, for the college?
I want our community to rise. I want to reduce the wealth gap in our community. I want to create more entrepreneurs that actually are going to lead industry. I want to make sure that people use the education to not only get themselves ahead, but to lift the whole community. I want people to recognize that the investments that they make in themselves really are investments for the multiple generations connected to them. And so as a transplant, for me, I am very, very enthusiastic about Cleveland. I want people to have that same level of excitement that I have.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you're in a thing, you don't see the full value of a thing. And it's not until you're outside of the thing that you see it differently, which is why you have so many people who start off in Cleveland, go somewhere else, but ultimately come back. This is a major reverse transfer city. People go somewhere else, but then they always come back home. And that is because they realize what is really here. Family. The beauty of the lake and the trails and the cultural institutions, the beauty of the people, the power of being in a sports town, where whether we win or we lose, we do it together.
Right.
Like, that is not common in most cities. And so, that is what I hope for the city, that the pride that we have is evident in everything we do.
Talking about that excitement that you brought up, I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've been to a couple of your speeches, and usually it ends with a standing ovation, some loud claps, everybody leave feeling encouraged and inspired. What is it that drives the passion that you speak with?
Love. Love of our people, love of the power of community, love of the power of the possible.
I like that.
I think that is a defining thing for me. When we lose hope, we actually weaken possibility. If we allow ourselves to dream, if we allow ourselves to have hope, it makes all the difference. Now, I don't want you to get the impression that hope is just this touchy-feely emotional thing. Hope has very distinctive elements. We got to have goals. We have to have plans, and we have to have actions. And so for me, I have that in my mind as I make decisions for this institution and what we're trying to do for this community. What are our goals? We want every person that wants an education to have one. What are our plans? We want to make it affordable, accessible, and we want to meet people where they are. And what actual actions are we taking? We're graduating people. We're connecting them with jobs. We're helping them build their businesses. We're helping them to see the possible. That's my responsibility. If nothing else, I'm a hope dealer. And I will be a hope dealer to the end of time.
Yes, I like that a lot. The podcast is called Keepin It Cleveland. What does Keepin It Cleveland mean to you?
Keeping it real.
Keeping it real.
Keeping it right.
Uh-huh.
And keeping it realistic. Real and realistic is two different things. Real is honesty, but realistic is actually the work. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not just pie in the sky ideas. Mm-hmm. It's about the work. Mm-hmm. So we have to actually do the work.
And I would say this, my last question for you is, if you can think of, I know you have tons of partners, organizations, or people that you are in relation with. If you could think about one that is making a huge impact on our community in some type of way, whether it's a person, a business, an organization, if you can invite them onto this show and give them a reason, allowing them to have a platform to talk about that impact, who would that organization be, and what could you say to them?
Well, there's so many people that
know.
are doing amazing things. But one of the organizations that I'd hope you'd bring on is Sharon Sobel Jordan of the United Way. People don't realize that 211 center that connects folks to the services and the opportunities and the resources of the city is critical. And more people need access to the infrastructure of support, because sometimes you don't get because you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so exposing her to the community and the plethora of supports that all the organizations they fund actually are making a meaningful on-the-ground difference in the community, I think that's a voice that we need to hear and the resources we need to have access to.
Well, thank you for that. We'll definitely look into that and be reaching out. Well, thank you once again for coming on to this podcast. I know we got things to do after this. It was an honor. I'm pretty sure we'll have you on again. Let the conversation continue, and thank you for all that you're doing.
Well, thank you for keeping it Cleveland.
For sure. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for listening, watching. Make sure that you guys subscribe, like, follow, do all the things that you're supposed to. And remember to keep it Cleveland.